Good morning, campers. I'm sitting outside the Mahoning Inn in Lehighton, Pennsylvania. I know you're thinking, why are they off the trail? These folks never hike. Oh well. Here's what happened. We saw the weather report. The weather report was saying that eastern Pennsylvania, where we were going to get hammered and slammed, that there was a potential for the derecho, which comes from Spanish, derecha, which means straight ahead, straight line winds, as my cousin Lehighton would say. And here in Pennsylvania, the trail shelters are all up on the ridge tops, so they're unprotected from the wind. There are none of them that are down in gullies or anything. Well, there are a couple, but not where we were staying. Further, there was forecast 1 to 3 inches of rain. Okay, we said we better get off the trail and hunker down. But the thing that really capped it, is that we didn't have enough food to make it past where we were to the next place to buy food. We could have, if we could have done our normal mileage, we would have been fine. But with the weather coming in, we're going to have to hunker down someplace and take a 0 day, and we wouldn't have had any food. And the reason we went out of food is this. Sometimes, we've mentioned before that you meet people on the trail that are not backpackers. We met a young man, he said his name was Chris. He had about a 130-pound purebred husky with him, hiking on the trail several days ago. Nancy and I were coming in at the end of about, I forget how many miles it was, it doesn't matter how many miles, but it was the end of the day. We were a mere quarter of a mile away from the shelter. And I passed this young man with the dog and spoke to him some, and sometimes you meet people on the trail and you know they're not backpackers. They don't have the gear. They look more like homeless people. And there was just something out of whack with this young man. He told me the dog was 13 years old, and for a purebred husky, that's really old, particularly to be walking around. He told him he was a rescue dog from Phoenix, Arizona area. And he said he was walking the 4 miles into town to see if he could find a place where somebody could wire him money. All of these things say, well, this person is not a backpacker, there's something else going on. So Nancy and I proceeded on our way, and we went to the shelter and got all snuggled in, and after it was dark, we heard this yell, "Hello, hello," and heard him call in this dog, Lou. "Come on, Lou, come on, Lou." And it was this young man. Well, Nancy and I are alone in the shelter. Here's a guy with a big dog, and it was a little bit of a nerve-wracking situation. How do we deal with that? And I spent a lot of times lying on my back, staying awake. The funny thing is, even though rain was forecast for that night, Chris didn't get in the shelter. He just plopped down on the ground outside the shelter under the eaves with his dog, and he went to sleep. Well, we woke up the next morning to rain, and Chris had not slashed our throats during the night, and he got into the shelter and hunkered down and got his dog into the shelter, which, backpackers don't like that. But Nancy and I understood that this guy had some issues. And then they went to sleep. And so Nancy and I went about our breakfast routine, made our oatmeal and grits and our coffee, and everything smelled good, and we had all of our expensive camping gear. And we look over, and this kid doesn't have anything hardly. He's got this wet sock and sleeping bag that he's covered up in, trying to get warm. He hadn't eaten since we'd seen him. It didn't look like he had any food with him. So as we were leaving, we dug into our bags, and we gave him our jar of peanut butter. Now, if you know me, you know what a sacrifice that was. I like peanut butter better than I do tobacco. We gave him our jar of peanut butter. I gave him my bag of Gorp. We gave him a big packet of crackers, graham crackers, and we left. It was a good thing to do. The guy obviously had some mental issues, and we talked about calling somebody to see if they could go and get him off the trail. We haven't done that. So we got to the weather report 2 days ago, and it was supposed to be horrible for yesterday, and we were running out of food, and we just had to get off the trail. So we got a ride 11 miles down to the Mahoning Inn in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, a lovely town. That's where we are. Now, this is Friday morning, and we're about to get a ride back to the trail and go back on our merry way. I think we maybe got an inch of rain yesterday. If you total it all up all day, it didn't happen here. On our 0 day, Nancy and I walked about 7 miles. First, we walked a mile into town to buy more supplies because we'd given too many supplies to Chris. We walked a mile back. Then in the afternoon, after a good nap, we walked 2 miles to the movie theater to see This Is the End, a very raunchy comedy, but one that has me thinking a lot about whether the actors, Seth Rogen, Franco, Jonah Hill, all those stoner guys, whether they actually were dealing with thoughts of the apocalypse and what they have to do to be saved, or if they're just poking fun at it. And there's some raunchy, funny stuff in the movie. We walked 2 miles back from there. Then we decided to go out for supper, and so we walked another mile into town, only to find the restaurant closed at 7 o'clock. What kind of business people are these? We walked a mile back. If I add all that up, that's about 8 miles on our 0 day, all on foot. However, without a backpack, it's easy. So, that's kind of an update. I was hoping to watch a full round of the U.S. Open yesterday, hunkering in the hotel room, but guess what? They're playing the U.S. Open at Marion, Pennsylvania, and it's about, 70 miles from here, so they didn't have a good day at the U.S. Open. Well, we're going to hike on. We'll be in a hotel again, just so you know, on Sunday in Port Clinton, hopefully to watch the final round of the U.S. Open. But we made good time. It's been 190 miles so far, just trail miles, not counting all the other walking around. So, we're back on it today. We'll see you down the trail.